What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 5 best builds in part of Exile's 2 new update, the Dawn of the Hunt. So in this guide I will give you a quick overview of each setup, then I will explain what skill gems and upgrades should you focus on. Then as well we'll see what is the best gear and how to get it, and then finally we will go over the passive skill tree, stats, your skill rotations, and even what charm should you use, so we would be able to get the highest damage possible and much more. And before we continue, thanks to the Time Saver. They are a pro website that provides POE2 services like cheap currency, custom builds, boosting and top quality items, orbs, and much more. They also have a lot of comments on Trustpilot, and this website is really worth a try. So make sure to check them out by using my link in the description. This setup is a fresh and powerful combination of the new Huntress Ascendancy and the Bleed Spear skills. This will revolve around fast-paced, agile combat with a focus on applying and stacking powerful bleed effects through ranged spears or the javelin attacks. You will use the spear throw or the whirling blade to apply bleeds, to then kite or reposition while the enemy takes damage over time. This playstyle will emphasize a hit-and-run tactic, exploiting movement speed, bleed stacking, and trap-style positioning for one-shotting bosses or super fast clear speed. So let me show you the build, and for the main class we are going with the Huntress and our ascendancy is Amazon. Then for the first skill we have Rake with the Stomping Ground, Deep Cuts and Blindside. Then second we got the Disengage with the Martial Tempo, Candace and Ingenuity. Then next we got Blood Hunt with the Bloodlust, Bullseye, Heavy Swing, Heft and Close Combat. Next we have Herald of Blood with Brutality, Precision and Vitality. Then for the next one we have the Bloodhound's Mark with Overpower, Inspiration and the Concentrated Effect. Next we got Wind Dancer with the Culling Strike, Blind and Maim. Then next we got the Tame Beast with Loyalty, Minion Mastery and Muster. And finally we're using Explosive Spear with Overabundance, Expedite, Retreat and Primal Armament. Most of the setup is structured around spamming Rake to delete enemies in split seconds, so we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration, size and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at this attack damage node and then keep going while taking these three. So Primal Instinct, Eagle Eye and Disorientation. Then next we keep on going until this point and then take this bottom left side, and then keep going until we get these two, so careful aim and blur. Then next up we keep on going until this point and then take these three, so Crimson Assault, Perfectly Balanced Knife and Versatile Arms. Then after this we go until the end and then go up top till we get this whole thing. And then when that is done, now we circle back a little and now get everything until these two, so the Doomsayer and the Bleeding Out. And then finally from here we can pretty much go where we started from and then get all of these nodes in this top right side, and the order in which you get them doesn't really matter, so it's more of a personal preference. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they are the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then later on, the priority won't really matter that much. Also, as far as attributes go, you just simply won't fulfill your attribute requirements for gear and gems, and then after that spend the rest in strength. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Critical Strike. This one focuses on enhancing the power and efficiency of your critical hits. You will gain significant bonuses to Critical Strike Chance and Critical Strike Multiplier, which will allow you to deal massive damage with the right setup. The node often provides an increased global Critical Strike Chance, making your hits more likely to land a critical, which is a key for scaling damage in a high-end content. Then second we want Penetrate. Better its elemental resistances, armor, evasion or energy shields. This gives us a massive damage boost. Penetrate is just not about damage, it's also about ensuring that your damage always lands, so this Ascendancy will thrive on debuffing, piercing and breaking defenses, which makes it ideal for dealing constant high value hits in both fast-paced clearing and long boss fights. Then next we want Predatory Instincts, which is designed to enhance agility, offensive power and damage scaling through increased critical strike chance, attack speed and evasion. You'll gain increased critical strike chance against enemies that are on low life, which makes you highly efficient at finishing off weak enemies. And on top of this, the added attack speed will boost your offensive capability, allowing you to apply damage faster and stack debuffs like bleed or poison at an accelerated pace. And finally, we are going in for the kill. When you choose this one, it will grant you a significant boost to critical strike chance and critical strike multiplier when your enemies are below a certain life threshold. This means that once you've already chipped away at your targets and they are low on health, then your attacks become much more lethal, so combining these two last notes will completely destroy any enemy that you come across. Next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Swift Spear with increased physical damage, adds to physical damage, more accuracy, increased attack speed and leech damage as life. Then also we got an offhand called the Coiled Buckler with increased block chance, evasion rating, max life, lightning resistance and reduced attribute requirements. Then for helmet we have the Cowled Helm with max life, accuracy rating, strength and fire resistance. Then for chest we have the Shrouded Vest with evasion rating, max life and chaos resistance. Then for belt we have the Long Belt with max life, cold resistance and fire resistance. Then for gloves we got the Bound Braces with the add physical damage to attacks, fire, cold and lightning resistance. Then for boots we're using the Soldiering Sabatons with armor and evasion. And for bonus stats we want increased movement speed, max life, fire and cold resistance. Then for our first ring we got the Amethyst Ring with chaos resistance, adds physical damage to attacks, max mana and strength. While for the second one we have the Topaz Ring with the lightning resistance, max life, chaos and cold resistance. And then finally for amulet we have the Jade Amulet with dexterity, spirit, then even more dexterity and fire resistance. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is the best case scenario setup, which should be more for an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. So our rotation is quite simple, but you will need to get used to it. We are going to be constantly on the move, weaving through enemies with sharp fluid motions. Every spear you will throw is not about impact, it's about the damage that follows. You don't need to stand and fight, as we can just watch them fall while we dash away. So we'll begin fights with a quick spear throw, immediately inflicting powerful bleeds that continue to drain enemies long after you've disengaged. Against tougher targets you will stack those bleeds, strafing and repositioning while they slowly tear apart. But then what about bosses? Well, they're all about timing. So keep moving, stay out of reach and just keep pressuring them as the bleed does the killing for us. Everything about this build will feed into that rhythm. Very high mobility, clean clears and a constant sense of momentum. It's not about tanking hits, it's about never being hit in the first place. So you will feel agile, tactical and lethal. And just keep spamming Rake as you see your enemies die in seconds. This setup is structured around using Contagion in combination with other chaos skills that will curse and explode enemies in very wide area. Overall, our main spammable skills have quite high mana cost to make it efficient, and that's why we are going to be using a wand like the Life Spring, which leeches percentage of max life when you cast spells. And on top of this, we can also use Asterisk Accuracy Gloves to get instant leech from our critical hits, so then this combination would completely remove the mana from equation and give us the ability to infinitely spam chaos skills and do massive amounts of damage without worrying about anything. The main gameplay idea behind our setup is to one-shot most enemies, and as they will die, they will continuously replenish our life and energy shield. However, for bosses, we will need to be careful, as not getting stun-locked is our main priority, and that's why we will use a specific setup, such as putting the spare in our multiple skill slot and much more. So let me show you the build, and for the main class we are going with the Witch and our ascendancy is Lich. Then for the first skill we have Contagion with Unleash and Magnified Effect. Then second we got the Withering Presence with Persistence. Then next we got Essence Drain with Pierce, Swift Affliction and Profanity. Next we have Despair with Decaying Hex and Heightened Curse. Then for the next one we have Blasphemy with the Hex Bloom, Despair and Ritualistic Curse. Then next we got the Frost Bomb with Fast Forward and Spell Cascade. And finally, we're using Shield Charge with the Martial Tempo. Most of this setup is structured around using Contagion with the Essence Drain to delete enemies in split seconds. So we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration, size and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you're interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start the dispel and minion damage node, and then go like this while taking these three, so open mine, route destruction, and practice signs. Then next we keep on going to the left and get everything until the spiral into insanity. Then from here we circle back a little and keep on going until we get entropy, and then take right. Then when we are here we want to get all of these, so first up take the top side and then the bottom side, and then again keep on going until we get to the actual end and then take right. And when we get to here then get both of these, so dark entries and the patient barrier. And now finally from here we can go down and get this whole left side, but usually at this point you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then later on, the priority won't really matter that much. Also, as far as attributes go, you just simply won't fulfill your attribute requirements for gear and gems, and then after that spend the rest in intelligence. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the soulless form. This offers substantial benefits. It will require careful balancing of life and energy shield values, and investing in energy shield is crucial, as it serves as a buffer that prevents life loss. However, if your energy shield is depleted, the bypass damage will affect your life, which makes it essential to manage both resources effectively. Then second, we want the eternal life. When we combine this with the soulless form, it will provide a robust defensive layer, by ensuring that your life remains unchanged as long as you have energy shield remaining. You will be able to take damage without compromising your life. Then third, we want the necromantic condiant. To effectively utilize this node, we need to invest into mana regeneration and max mana, and this will ensure that mana drain does not hinder our overall performance. If done properly, this setup can significantly increase our damage and give this one-shot AoE potential. And lastly, we got Blackened Heart. Because of our already higher maximum mana, this will not only enhance the Unholy Might buff, but also support the other lich mechanics that scale with it. By using this 4-node combo, we will do insane damage, but a significant mana drain could become an issue, and that's why you need to follow the specific gear setup. Next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Lifespring Wand with the mana drain, max mana, increased cast speed, and the ability to leech percentage of max life whenever we cast a spell. You of course don't have to use this specific weapon if you can afford it, so in any case try to look for something similar. Then also we got an offhand called the Antler Focus with energy shield, reduced attribute requirements, and more levels of all spell skills. Then for helmet we have the Jungle Tiara with energy shield, max life, max energy shield, and more to fire resistance. Then for chest we have the Anchorite Garb with evasion and energy shield. Then also more spirit, max life, and cold resistance. Then for belt we have the Rawhide Belt with increased life flask recovery, max life, and fire and lightning resistance. Then for gloves we got the Torn Gloves with energy shield, max life, and chaos resistance. Then for boots we are using the Silk Slippers with energy shield, increased movement speed, max mana, max life, and lightning resistance. Then for our first ring we got the Sapphire Ring with cold resistance, max life, more to intelligence, and more to cold resistance. While for the second one we have the Ruby Ring with more to fire resistance, max mana, max life, and lightning resistance. And then finally for amulet we have the Solar Amulet with more to spirit, max life, and chaos resistance. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is the best case scenario setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. The core damage of our setup is Chaos, which we can use to deal devastation through toxic and curse spells. You will need to focus on skills that deal Chaos damage over time, such as the Essence Chain, Contagion, and the Malice Burst. And then for defense, we will rely on Energy Shield, so you'll use Life Leech to convert Chaos damage into healing, which will allow you to stay alive during tough encounters. So, we want to start fights by casting Essence Chain that spreads Chaos damage over area, which applies a debuff that makes enemies explode on death, causing AoE damage to nearby enemies as well. We want to maximize its potential by scaling up damage and AoE efficiency. Then also we could use Malice Burst, which is a powerful burst of Chaos energy that can be used to hit multiple enemies at once, and it is perfect for clearing large groups of enemies quickly. And then finally we can finish it off with the Contagion, that spreads Chaos damage over time to the enemies, and it's perfect for applying Chaos damage debuffs to the enemies before they die, which triggers cascading explosions. This setup's main focus is to run and press from 1 to 2 skills and then target big enemy groups to then weaken them and explode. One of the most powerful skills that we have in our arsenal is the Shockwave totem, and as you can see from the gameplay, we are just running into the enemies and one-shotting them without even trying. Also, our Ancestral Warrior totem and the Scavenge plating makes the most out of this by effectively extending the damage of this hit many times over, in order to kill big targets like the bosses or tanky rare monsters. Of course, like most melee builds, the armor explosion was nerfed, but our particular setup wasn't impacted as much as other melee builds, so currently this is by far one of the best warrior builds in the game. If you are looking for a powerful auto AoV machine to target enemies and delete them in split seconds, then this is the one for you. So let me show you the build, and for the main class I have chosen to go with the warrior, and our ascendancy is the warbringer. Then for the first skill we have the mage strike with the support gem called the rage, armor explosion, magnified effect and the primal armament. And even after the new changes on how the armor breaker works, the mage strike still works perfectly fine, as long as you use it with the cultist great hammer. Then second we got the Shockwave totem with inspiration, close combat and overpower. Then next we got the Scavenge plating with the precision, vitality and clarity. Next we have the Ancestral Warrior totem with the sunder, super critical and overabundance. Next up we have the time of the need with fast forward, herbalism and clarity. And finally, for the last one, we are using the Hammer of the Gods with Fist of War, Concentrated Effect, Exploit Weakness and Heft. Most of this setup is structured around using the Shockwave totem and the Mage Strike to delete enemies in split seconds, so we use gems and skills that will support and increase their size and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. And as our build is already super broken, so we don't have to use more than these 6 active skill gems. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you're interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at this melee damage node, and then go like this until we get all of these 4. So brutal, smash, sturdy metal and relentless. Then next up we want to go to this top right side like this, and then go to the left until we get this whole thing, so ancestral reach and the supportive ancestors. Next we circle back a little and this time keep going until we reach the devastation node. Then next up we keep going and take the right side, and then keep going more until we get both of these, so carving earth and hardened wood. Then now keep moving forwards until the end, and from here we want to get both of these totem nodes. Which side you choose first doesn't really matter as long as you get both of them. And then finally from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then in the late game to make it even more powerful. Also, as far as attributes go, you just simply want to fulfill your attribute requirements to gear and skill gems, and then spend the rest of your leftover attributes into more strength. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for our ascendancy build this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the anvil's weight, then second get the imploding impacts, then third we want the answered call, and then finally for the fourth option go with the wooden wall. Next up we have our atlas passives, and the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus stats that spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, such as in expeditions or in rituals. Our warrior build is also great at single target DPS, so we can also spend a bit points into farming boss maps or essences. So when we start, we want to first of all get to this bottom right side like this. Then from here we want to go until we get all the way to this keystone called the Deadly Evolution. Then next we go back to the middle, and this time take the bottom left side and get all of these passives. And then when all of these are done, then now we go again to the middle and now take the middle path and unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you prefer. Next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the cultist great hammer, which is special because its base stat does that our strike now deals splash damage to the targets within 1.8 meter range. And as I said, after the new changes to how the armor breaker works, the mage strike will now still work perfectly fine, but you specifically have to use this weapon, or otherwise switch the mage strike skill for something different like the stampede. And then for bonus stats we want increased physical damage, more armor and more levels of all melee skills. Then for the helmet we have the warrior great helm with armor, and for more we want max life, more accuracy, more intelligence and fire resistance. Then for chest we have the advanced full plate with armor, and for more we need max life, armor and cold resistance. Then for the belt we have the rawhide belt with 20% quicker flask recovery. And for bonus stats we want max life, more armor and +2 to charm slots. Then for gloves we got the interested gloves with energy shield. And for more we need max life, max mana and more levels to all melee skills. Then for boots we are using the advanced bronze greaves with armor. And for more we for sure want increased movement speed, and then also max life and resistances like cold and fire. Then for our first ring we got the ruby ring with fire resistance. And for more we'd want add physical damage, more intelligence and lightning resistance. While on the second one we have the topaz ring with lightning resistance. And for more we need max life, max mana, more strength and chaos resistance. And then finally for the amulet we got the crimson amulet with life regen per second. And for more we want max life, more armor, more dexterity and fire resistance. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is a starter setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. Then next we have runes. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. And to be honest, because of our setup, this build will be extremely powerful, no matter in what order you use your skills. But if you're interested in the most optimized damage rotation, then here it is. So for both clearing and bossing, you want to place down your Shockwave totem, and Ancestral Warrior, which is linked with the Sunder totem. And then you can also use the Mage Strike to get a bit of extra damage in, and then later to generate rage as well. And finally, when you are at high tier maps and at the full endgame, you'll also be wanting to use the Hammer of the Gods on stunned bosses. But since it relies on having more than just plus levels to all melee skills on your weapon, so it might not deal as much damage for you as it does for other builds. And that's why our main objective will be to focusing on crazy AoE damage and less at single targets. This setup is a fresh and powerful combination of the new Huntress Ascendancy and the lightning based spear skills. We're going to be combining very high damage to create devastating zones that electrocute and trap enemies in a single place. Right now this setup is easily one of the fastest and most efficient options for mob farming and speed leveling. And as you can see from the gameplay, enemies are getting wiped out in a matter of seconds. Even bosses will not stand a chance, thanks to our high single target damage by spamming the lightning spear in the combination with the storm lance and our key buffs. However, at some point in the later game, some lower gear players might run into a mana problem. But lucky for us, the Huntress has many tools to address this problem, and with optimized gear we need nothing more than a single stat roll on our weapon or gear to completely solve this issue. So let me show you the build, and for the main class we are going with the Huntress and our ascendancy is Amazon. Then for the first skill we have Spear Stab with no support gems. Then second we got the Herald of Thunder with magnified effect and innervate. Then next we got Storm Lance with concentrated effect, lightning infusion and primal armament. Next we have Lightning Spear with a Scatter Shot and Rising Tempest. Then for the next one we have the Sniper's Mark with Persistence and Profusion. Then next we got Barrage with Premeditation and Arcane Tempo. Then next we got the Combat Frenzy with Precision. And finally we're using Explosive Shot with Overabundance and Fire Infusion. Most of this setup is structured around using the Lightning Spear with a Storm Lance to delete enemies in split seconds. So we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration, size and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you're interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we first of all want to start at this projectile damage node, and then go like this while taking all of these 4, such as the Honed Instincts, Eagle Eye, Blur and the Vile Wounds. Next up we keep on moving forwards while grabbing these 2, so Sheathing Skin and the Escape Velocity. Then from here we want to go like this and then take the Harness the Elements. And then from here just keep on going like this while selecting Catalysts and the Maiming Strike. Then when we get to this endpoint, then from here we want to first of all take the whole bottom left side. And then after that is done, then just go up to the top and get all of these nodes. And in order in which you do it doesn't really matter that much. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then later on the priority won't really matter that much. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Elemental Infusion. This will empower the Amazon to become a conduit for raw elemental forces, especially lightning, by focusing on agility, precise strikes and devastating elemental effects. Then second, we want the Critical Strike. This will transform us into a precision-based assassin, by relying on high crit chance, deadly multipliers and a rapid execution. It will be all about striking fast, striking true and making every hit potentially lethal. And unlike the brute force builds, the crit Amazon will thrive on calculated defense, so you'll be stacking crit chance, crit multipliers and attack speed to turn even basic spear skills into a very high DPS attacks. Then next we want Infused Avatar. This will combine body and energy into one seamless force. This Ascendancy is all about adaptive elemental empowerment, giving you very quick boosts called infusions, which are based on your skill usage, movement and combat rhythm. All of this will result in a fast and responsive build that constantly will shift between powerful elemental modes. And then finally for our fourth option we want Penetrate. Whether it's elemental resistances, armor, evasion or energy shields, this will give us a massive damage boost. The Penetrate Ascendancy is not just about damage, it's about ensuring that your damage always lands. So because of this we will thrive on debuffing, piercing and breaking defenses, which makes it ideal for dealing consistent, high value hits in both fast-paced and long boss fights. Next we have gear. The weapon of our choice is the Helix Spear with the accuracy rating, increased physical damage, increased attack speed and more levels of all projectile skills. Then also we got an offhand called the Lycosidai Shield, and from this we get bunch of armor, increased block chance, our accuracy is doubled and when blocking we deal extra damage to enemies. However, this unique is not required, and if you can afford it or get it, then any normal shield will work as well, just try to look for something similar. Then for helmet we have the Trapper Hood with evasion, accuracy rating, dexterity and fire resistance. Then for chest we have the Shrouded Vest with evasion, max life and chaos resistance. Then for belt we have the Long Belt with increased charm duration, max life, and cold fire and chaos resistance. Then for gloves we got the Barbed Braces with evasion, accuracy, then even more evasion, more to all elemental resistances and chaos resistance. Then for boots we're using the Lace Boots with evasion, increased movement speed, even more evasion and cold resistance. Then for our first ring we got the Emerald Ring with accuracy, dexterity and fire resistance, while for the second one we have the Topaz Ring with bunch of lightning resistance. And then finally for amulet we have the Bloodstone Amulet with max life, increased rating and increased rarity of items found. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is the best case scenario setup, which would be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. So our rotation is quite simple, but you will need to get used to it. What we want to do is first of all engage enemies by casting the Storm Lance to establish damaging zones, then follow that up with the Lightning Spear to pierce through and finish off huge amount of targets. This combination allows for very fast clearing of maps and efficient leveling. And also against bosses, the high single target damage from the Lightning Spear, enhanced by the Stormland's persistent damage, will ensure the same quick takedowns as with AoE mobs. However, as I mentioned at the start, in the later stages of the game, some players might encounter mana sustainability issue. But lucky for us, Amazon will offer a bunch of tools to address this, and with optimized gear such as items with mana leech or reduced mana cost modifiers, this issue can be effectively resolved. And thanks to our Ascendancy and passive tree scaling, our most important skill, the Lightning Spear, will become a rapid fire projectile of death. He will pierce, crit often and synergize perfectly with a shock effect to ramp up your damage in few seconds. Most of the enemies won't survive more than a second or two once you've combined both of our skills. And for trash monsters, it's all about speed. So just run, cast Stormlance mid-stride, and toss few lightning spears to clear entire screens. The build's high mobility makes it perfect for fast mapping, and it is ideal for both league starters and experienced players that are trying to rush endgame content. So, this endgame build will utilize the Skeletal Frost Mages by buffing them insanely high, so then in return we can do huge amount of damage. They also can freeze enemies and bosses, which will make very hard content a walk in the park. This build's greatest strength is its primary defense, so we will have a massive amount of energy shield, and by using the Grim Feast we will double it, so in the endgame we will be able to reach up to 13,000 energy shield. On top of this, our setup's playstyle will allow you to clear quite aggressively, while still being able to pull back and let your enemies protect you from the enemies whenever needed. If you are looking for very OP but passive gameplay, where most of the work is done by your minions, then this is the build for you. So let me show you the build, and for the main class, I have chosen to go with the Witch and our ascendancy is the Infernalist. Then for the first skill, we have the Skeletal Frost Mages with the support gems such as the Arcane Tempo, Scatter Shot, Feeding Frenzy, Vault Charts and the Cold Mastery. Then second, we get the Skeletal Storm Mage with Conduction, Stormfire, Lightning Penetration and the Overcharge. Then next we got Skeletor Cleric with Ingenuity, Last Gasp and the Minion Mastery. Next we have Pain Offering with Persistence, Ablution, Inspiration and Fan of Rage. Next up we have the Hypothermia with a Heightened Curse, Spell Cascade and Focus Curse. Next we got Frost Bomb with a Spell Cascade, Fan of Mana, Fan of Blood and the Strip Away. Next we got the Grim Feast with the Clarity. Next we have Summon Infernal Hound with a Meat Shield, Maim, Culling Strike, Fire Exposure and the Fire Mastery. And finally for the last one we are using the Sigil of the Power with the Magnified effect. Most of this setup is structured around using our Skeletal Frost Mages to delete enemies in seconds. So we use gems and skills that will support and increase their defense and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at the spell and minion damage node, and go like this while taking the Raw Destruction and the Power of the Dead. Then next we want to move to the right and get all of these three, so Pure Energy, Dampening Shield and the Living Dead, as well as get this whole circle. Then afterwards we keep on going while taking Necrotized Flesh and Relentless Fallen. Then next we go like this, and then from this point take the left path and take all of these nodes. And then from this point and onwards you can go here up to the top and just unlock all the other nodes in whatever order you prefer. Also keep in mind that all of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they are the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then in the late game to make it even more powerful. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Loyal Hellhound for that minion skill and 20% reduced damage. Then second we get Altered Flesh. This will help out in dealing with physical damage if you have chaos resistance, or when you start stacking maximum fire damage, then you will take less cold and lightning damage. Then for our third pick we have the Berat's Will. This will give us more maximum spirit, but in return it will reduce our life by 25%. This might seem like a huge debuff, but it's 100% worth it, because of how insanely high we have our energy shield stacked up. And then finally for the last one we got the Berat's Hand, so feel free to use the exact same path as I have right here. And don't forget to check this video's description to find the link for this website, and this should make it easier for you to follow the tree. Next up we have our Atlas passives, and the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus passives that spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, such as in expeditions or in rituals. So when we start we wanna first of all go to the left side and get all of these nodes, and then go down until you get to this keystone called the Deadly Evolution. And then from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you want. But then on top of this we have even more passives. Which order in which you unlock them doesn't matter, so this time it's up to you. And this is how it should look like for the ritual. Then next we have the Delirium. Then third we have the bosses, and then on top of that we have the pinnacle bosses. Then next we also have our expedition setup, and then finally our breach setup. Next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Rattling Scepter. This is one of the most important items as it will increase our minions' damage. However, if you prefer more damage over using a shield for passive block chance, then you can build a scepter together with a spiked club, or that extra levels to all minion skills. And for bonus stats we want to get more to spirit, max mana and plus levels of all minion skills. Then also for the offhand we got the advanced Omen Crest Shield with a block. And for stats we want max energy shield, more to spirit and chaos resistance. Pretty much for this one we want a high energy shield and armor base. And a really good unique to acquire early on is the Oak Sworn. However, you can later on replace it with other options that give you 2 sockets or even more to spirit. Then for the helmet we have the Expert Feather Tiara with the energy shield. And for more we want max energy shield, max life and plus levels to all minion skills. Then for chest we have the expert altar robe with the energy shield, and for more we got even more energy shield, more to spirit, as well as fire and cold resistance. Then for belt we have the fine belt with the faster flask recovery. And for more we want max life, max mana and more to charm slots. Then for gloves we got the expert interested gloves with the energy shield. And for more we want even more max energy shield, max life and chaos resistance. Then for boots we're using the expert feather sandals with the energy shield. And for more we need increased movement speed, max energy shield, as well as chaos and lightning resistance. Then for the first ring we got the prismatic ring with more to all elemental resistances. And for the extra stats we got max mana, max life, and again even more percentage to all elemental resistances. Well then for the second one we have the Amethyst ring, as this is a very easy place to get even more chaos resistance. And for more we got max mana, adds physical damage to attacks and cold and fire resistance. And then finally for the amulet we have the lunar amulet with a lot of max energy shield. And for more we want more to spirit, more levels to all minion skills, as well as chaos resistance. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is a starter setup, which would be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. And as you can see from the gameplay, this is one of the easiest and simplest builds in the game. At all times, our minions are going to be active, so then all we need to do is run around the map while simply using the pain offering, then hypothermia, and then from here just spam the frost bombs, and that's about it. As I said at the start, this build is very simple, and for weak enemies, you won't really have to do anything besides run into them and then the minions will do the rest. However, what I usually like to do is also keep spamming the Sigil of the Power as soon as it's up, and it will give us a nice simple buff to increase our DPS even more. And then finally, especially in the beginning when you're not geared enough and sometimes may die, then make sure that your elemental resistances are at 75%. Furthermore, make sure that your specific items that you have equipped will give you as much energy shield as possible.